Say what? Ho, this is Brian. Call me Radioactive Gardener, coming to you from Ramble On Tower's Dungeon Studio in scenic Hespeler, Ontario. You are listening to Ramble On Radio, episode number 45. Ramble On Radio is the only dedicated Led Zeppelin podcast on this or any other known internets. Be sure to go to rambleonradio.com for all your Led Zeppelin news and any links mentioned during the show. You can subscribe to Ramble On Radio through iTunes. Stop by when you're there, leave a review. Listen to Spreaker, or listen on Spreaker, and again, be sure to follow Ramble On Radio on Spreaker. Check it out at I Am Brian Dammit on iTunes. Check it out at I Am Brian Dammit on, the video site, YouTube, and follow, I was doing so good too, wasn't I? Follow Ramble On Radio on Facebook, Google+, and at Ramble On Blog on Twitter. And that covers all that stuff. Listen, this is episode 45. It's I tell you, I'm never sure I was ever going to get to 45, but we're really closing in on 50. Should be there about the endish of February, yeah. And just so you know, I kind of as a tidy up thing. When I hit 50, I will be archiving, starting to archive. That's from my personal side, but on the more public side, I'm running out of disk space at Podbean, where I keep this, basically the home site for this, and I'm not really planning on paying more money to get more space. So what's going to start happening is at 50, I'm going to delete 1 to 10 of these episodes. They're online now. If you want to have them if you want to listen for the first 10, if you want to do something like that, by all means, go listen. You got about a month. Now, once I hit 50, I'm going to start deleting the first 10. And then every 10, I'm going to delete 10. And that should keep the disk space happy. And you know, it should just... So they're going to start disappearing off the web. Unless you... So if you want to make some of your own archive, go ahead. But you have that much time to do it. All right. Interesting week. This would have been a good week for my old format of going through just the news and reviews and stuff like that. But I've got a topic, and I'm going to get there, and I think it's a fun one, actually. But I'm going to start with this. Two stories hit in the last couple of days. John Davis mastered Celebration Day. He's a mastering engineer. And he's also been working with Jimmy Page on the new remasters. He's responsible for the mastered on iTunes. And so he did an interview, and he mentions a couple of things. First talks about, he will not say, he was kind of under secrecy, not to say a word about what's on the remasters in terms of bonus material, but he says there's A, new stuff, new songs you've never heard, B, other takes, completely different takes of old songs, which we did kind of know that. He also suggested there's going to be a kind of one on everything box. So I assume he means vinyl on that. I assume he means a box set of just the vinyl records, like the Beatles did. The Beatles did a complete Beatles vinyl box set. It's about the size of a big dictionary, you know, and I assume he means something like that. You know, $100 and you get the big box of Zeppelin. He could include all the new stuff. Could include, you know, the bonus discs, etc., etc., etc. I don't know if that's what they've got in mind, but he did say there's going to be a box of everything. He does say there's new songs they've found. Bonus albums have got incredible stuff on it. He calls it the all-singing, all-dancing version of all the albums and all the bonus discs. So there you go. He says so. It doesn't suggest say that'll be vinyl or CD or MP3 or whatever. But they're doing press on February 20th. Jimmy Page is doing some press, and they're going to be going over. He's going to be answering the questions. So presumably something's coming soon. If he's doing press on February 20th, then presumably sometime fairly soon thereafter we're going to see the first, at least, if not the first three. And we'll know more then. as usual, I will contact people. I will send out emails and I will say, hey, I would like to be in on this press stuff, and they will ignore me. So that's what will happen. But so you know, I will do it. All right. Yesterday, my Facebook, I had 5 or 6 in a row citing this little interview with Chad Smith of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And everybody's and it's been run. The magazines, the online magazines, and I mean the legitimate news source, supposedly legitimate news sources, have gone to the wall on it. Ultimate Classic Rock and stuff like that, saying Red Hot Chili Peppers will be playing Dazed and Confused at the Super Bowl. Will be playing because Chad Smith said so. But what Chad Smith did, he was asked what the Red Hot Chili Peppers are invitees of Bruno Mars. It's Bruno Mars' show, and he asked them to come out too. So they're asking Chad Smith, he's going to be fun, and then she asks, what are you going to play? And the answer to what I'm going to play, what is, in point of fact, I can't tell you, right? They may even be contractually obligated to shut up about it, to not say anything. But the answer is, I can't tell you. So he kind of smiles and says, we're going to play the live version of Led Zeppelin's Dazed and Confused. That's it. Everybody goes nuts. Oh, they're playing Dazed and Confused at the Super Bowl. Red Hot Chili Peppers played Dazed and Confused. It's on. I'm getting email blasts from all those little source sites that saying it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. He was joking. To start with, he didn't say, well, there's going to be a snippet of it. He said, we're going to play the live version. The live version. If you're talking like that, the live version is the original Celebration Day, or original song remains the same version. Yes? We all agree on that? I get there's 6 other versions, but when you say the live version, you are specifying the original live version, which was song remains the same. It is 26:59 long. I think I have that right. I wrote it down somewhere, but I have a notepad here. 26:53. The Super Bowl slot for entertainment at the Super Bowl halftime show, because they have to get a stage on and off, as well as, it's just the halftime, is 12 minutes. So they're either going to play a super fast version, or they're not playing it. They're not playing it. So ignore those stories. Those are people who didn't pay attention to what he was saying, to the circumstances. And that's it for my little oddball off stories. Like I say, I could have gone on for days on just those couple of stories, I think. But I'm going to go on for days on something else entirely. So the Grammys came, the Grammys went. Led Zeppelin won 1 of 2. They won for Best Rock Album for Celebration Day, I think it is. Or Best Rock Performance, possibly, is what they call it. They did not win for Best Rock Song for Kashmir, because there's other rock songs that are better than Kashmir that exist out there, including Imagine Dragons' Radioactive. This is not the Firm's Radioactive. It's not the same song. Jimmy Page did not lose to Jimmy Page. They just stole his title. There's a lot of irony in that. There's just a lot of irony going on there. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like Jimmy never stole a title or two, right? So that, yeah, and it's, by the way, it's just an okay song. It's not like Kashmir lost to a great song. This is not 1975 or 1976 when it lost to, Love Will Keep Us Together. This is really, come on, guys. Let's put it this way: if the guys in Imagine Dragon break up 30 years from now, it's not going to be in the news. The fact that Captain and Tini Alar, and the other song that won for Best Pop that year was Lion Eyes by the Eagles. We still talk about the Eagles, so at least they were wrong, by the way. The best song was not Love Will Keep Us Together. The best song, best pop song, which is the closest Led Zeppelin will get category in the year 1975, was not Lion Eyes. It was Kashmir. It was Kashmir on both counts. That's an embarrassing oversight. But at least, This time, Kashmir lost to Imagine Dragons Radioactive. And you'd think the people who did this went, you look pretty stupid not voting for Led Zeppelin last time. But that's not that's my topic today. I went through the Grammys for the time that Led Zeppelin was active, because they never won a Grammy. What I don't know, by the way, I do not know if they were ever nominated. I didn't go through the nominations. Remember, I went to this format to reduce my work, not to increase it. So, no, that's not true. But I do not know if they were ever nominated, but they never won a Grammy in that time. Having those sound problems. Every week I end up having these sound problems, don't I? Oh, excuse me. That's the second week in a row I've sneezed, too. So the Grammys, now, it should be noted, they did Song of the Year, Album of the Year, or Record of the Year, Performance of the Year. And then they had pop through these years. They didn't have a rock category. They did by the very end, they did have a rock category. I think it was the Coda year they had it. They may have had it in 1980 for In Through the Outdoor year. But the other years, so Zeppelin would kind of fall into the pop category. So I'm going to go over all those categories. We'll see who won. We'll see who didn't win. We'll see, and I'm going to go with some notable stuff that's irrelevant as well, just for stuff that I kind of thought was interesting for whatever reason. So going back to March 11, 1970, and you got to remember the year before. So if it's in March 1970, they're celebrating the year of 1969. Worth noting that Celebration Day was not released in 2013; it was released in 2012. So there seems to be some ability to hang over from the year before. I don't know whether it's the album became significant. Maybe because Celebration Day they didn't release the vinyls until. It's the first time I've ever used vinyl in the plural. I know the hipsters do that. First time I've ever done it. There you go. So maybe because they released the vinyl, if it technically qualified this year, I don't know how they work it anymore. It's supposed to be the year before. I'm kind of going to assume if they released an album in 1969, the 1970 year we're looking at. But I will play the game a little bit, and for Led Zeppelin 4 and Led Zeppelin 2, I kind of assume there's a possibility of a hang, because they were both released quite late in the year. So I assume the possibility of a 6-week hangover from the year before that. Just so you know. Okay, so here we go. March 11, 1970, the 12th annual Grammys. Song of the Year was Games People Play by Joe South. Best New Artist, Crosby, Stills, Nash. Now, Led Zeppelin would qualify as the best new artist in 1970, as 1969 was their year. But they lost to Crosby, Stills, Nash, who weren't really that new, but there you go. That's the way it works. In the category of pop, Best Contemporary Song, Games People Play. Best Contemporary Instrumental Performance, because Led Zeppelin had, in the year 1969, both Moby Dick and Black Mountain Side. So Best Contemporary Instrumental Performance, Variation on a Theme by Eric Satie, by Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Blood, Sweat, and Tears turns up a lot, I think, in this year and the next one. Oh, you go, really? That's one of the ones you think, got that a bit wrong, didn't you? Best Contemporary Vocal Performance by a Group, and this would be where Zeppelin would really qualify. Best Vocal Performance by a Group would be Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine In by the Fifth Dimension. And I'm going to tell you, I was 7 years old in 1970, and I knew this song really well. So it's, you can kind of go, okay, that's not a bad pick. Notable Best Contemporary Vocal Performance Male, Everybody's Talking by Harry Nilsson. Best Folk Performance, Clouds by Joni Mitchell. And this is the last year that they have kind of that category. Best Folk, this moves over to, they call it... Best Ethnic or Traditional Recording after this year. So, like Joni Mitchell wouldn't qualify as a Best Folk Performance starting in 1971. And Best Country Song is A Boy Named Sue, written by Shel Silverstein, who went on to... He wrote a number of songs that you would know along that vein. The Unicorn would be one, all the Dr. Hook stuff. And just this last record store day, there was Shel Silverstein tribute album, a vinyl tribute album. I believe the set is actually about 5 or 6 years old, but he's out there, and people talk about Shel Silverstein, and yeah, Boy Named Sue was the Best Country Song. Okay, 13th Annual Grammys, March 16, 1971. This would, Led Zeppelin 3 would qualify in here, as well as, the hangover of Led Zeppelin 2, because it was late October, I guess it was released, so maybe not. But you could, if you were looking in 1971 and say, oh, holy cow, we missed that whole lot of love thing, you could probably squeeze it in. But they didn't. So, Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best Contemporary Song, Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. So we're seeing Led Zeppelin 3. You wonder the environment that Led Zeppelin 3 came out in. That's what popular music was. It was acoustic music that year, right? Bridge Over Troubled Water. Best Contemporary Vocal Performance Duo Group, The Carpenters, Close to You. Best Production, because Jimmy Page was an exceptional producer, Bridge Over Troubled Water. And I threw this one in. Led Zeppelin 3 had an excellent cover. Best Album Cover, Mississippi Seeds by B.B. King. And also notable, B.B. King's After the Thrill Is Gone was the Best R&B Vocal Performance Male. Bitches Brew by Miles Davis, one in the jazz category. And T-Bone Walker's Good Feelin' is in folk, best ethnic, and traditional recording. And I just threw that in because Led Zeppelin 3 would certainly qualify as a folk album, although not ethnic or traditional. Although really they could have thrown Gallows Pole in as a traditional. I think that would qualify, wouldn't it? But T-Bone Walker's Good Feeling one. Okay, the 14th Annual Grammys. And this is, this is March 15, 1972. This is when they start really missing stuff. This is the first when you must look back and say, oh boy, we missed that song. Because this is the Carole King Tapestry year. I remember the Tapestry album very well. It was everywhere. We would go to my uncle's cottage and he had it, and my brother had it, plus, so and so and so and so. And I have a copy somewhere. But the other side of the Carole King Tapestry album is, I haven't listened to it in 25 or 30 years. Who has? Is anybody? But Carole King was a music industry insider. She was a songwriter of note for 10 years before this album. Married to James Taylor, etc., etc. So, you understand where this comes from a bit. It's got nothing to do with how good the album is, though. It's got everything to do with who Carole King is. So yeah, instead of Stairway to Heaven, Song of the Year was You've Got a Friend by Carole King. And Tapestry won Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Record of the Year for It's Too Late, Song of the Year for You've Got a Friend, Best Pop Vocal Performance Female for the album, and Best Vocal Performance Male went to James Taylor for You've Got a Friend. Best Pop Vocal Performance Duo Group, by the way, is Carpenters for Carpenters. So, chicks who play piano. Well, I get Karen Carpenter didn't play piano, but her brother did while she sang and played some drums. Paul McCartney, by the way, won for Best Arrangement for Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. And Bill Cosby won for the Best Children's Recording for Bill Cosby Talks to Kids About Drugs. The Cause. So good for Bill Cosby. Big fan of his there. And in case you guys thought he just showed up in the sweaters in the 80s, he was around in the 70s. We knew who he was. The 15th Annual Grammys, March 3rd, 1973. Now, remember, 4 was released in 1971. So, it's now 1973. You've been through 1972. Stairway to Heaven is so obviously above. It's by 1973. It's been recognized as this is going to be a song. It took on its life and, it really, seriously, by by this time, they should have been aware that, wow, this is a song. This is a doer. This is a keeper. So this is your chance for a do-over on Stairway to Heaven here. So, that said, needing a do-over on Stairway to Heaven, you give Song of the Year and Record of the Year to First Time Ever I Saw Your Face by Roberta Flack. And yes, I can't say that without humming the verse in my head. Roberta Flack does do that to you, I guess. Album of the Year, Concert for Bangladesh, and that's one of the first rock charity kind of events. George Harrison put it together for, I think it was an earthquake in Bangladesh. Best Vocal Performance Male, Nilsson's Without You. I'll give this, boy, that's, I was listening to that recently actually with my daughter. We both sat and we're listening to it, and it's so stunning. It's such a performance. And you know, it's a good question for, not for this podcast, but for other podcasts. What the hell happened to Nilsson? Here we haven't won him Grammys 2 years in a row. No, sorry, 2 out of 3 years, I think it was. We got him for Everybody's Talking, which everybody kind of knows. And what was the movie? That was in a movie. I mean, in the last 10 years, right? I can picture it, but I can't think what the movie is. And then with it, I got to find where I am here. I got to find Without You is, I mean, it's astounding vocal. The guy could sing. The guy, he was obviously enough of an insider that he won Grammys. He had some great songs. He sold some singles, and he hung out with John Lennon. A very good friend of John Lennon's. He knew everybody, right? He hung out with all these guys, really. But yet he kind of never made it into a household name, never made it to a big star. Not so many people remember that much. Had a number of good albums. Even had, you remember, The Point. He had, it was an album, it was a TV show. It was an after-school special. And when I first heard of Nilsson, I stumbled across The Point at a record show one day, and I loved the Back to School special, and they used to show it twice a year, you know. And for those who don't remember, in the 70s, women were just kind of going to work. So, and it was a funny, because I mean, one year none of my friends' mothers worked. The next year, everybody's friend's mother worked. It happened all at once. And ABC, so there was this issue of kids coming home from school, and there was no parents there. Now, we're not talking about 6-year-olds. And the truth is, mom still stayed in school when you had a 6-year-old, or still stayed at home until you were in about grade 4 or 5, when you could come home after school and spend an hour or two by yourself. And so, but that's what these after-school specials are meant to, you know, babysit the kids for you in a way. So they put them on once every couple of weeks. And they'd be like little movies designed specifically around kids, usually involved kids. Anyway, The Point was one, and it had the song Me and My Arrow, and it was a kind of a fun one. And so when I found the album, very excited. It was very cool. The microphone's going weird again. I'm all echoey now. Hold on one second, please. Okay, so I did a quick playback, and it's not weird and echoey to you. It's just in my headphones. I don't know what's going on here. And finally, best vocal duo or group. And this, you know, duo or group is kind of where Led Zeppelin would qualify. Oh God, I just lost it. Can you believe I just lost it? Oh, what's going on? Roberta Flack and Donna Hathaway, Where Is the Love? And there's a song I never heard of before. Good choice, Grammy people. Yeah, no. You had your chance to get Stairway to Heaven right, and yeah, good choice. By the way, look, this is not meant to be, oh, boo-hoo, they didn't pick Led Zeppelin. They picked who they picked. We all know they didn't pick Led Zeppelin. Throughout the 1970s, right? And the 60s, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, The Who, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. Probably you could find another half dozen that are remarkable. Never won a Grammy. So, this is not a boo-hoo, they didn't pick Led Zeppelin. This isn't but this is, look, in the 1976 Grammys, Kashmir was there. Looking back on it now, is there a better song Kashmir was an astoundingly good song, and they missed it. So, and then they had a chance to kind of a do-over this year with Kashmir. I thought for sure Kashmir was going to best win for just that reason. And when it didn't, it just got me thinking, boy. So that's all this is, right? This is meant to be fun, okay? This is not meant to be a whine about how poorly treated Led Zeppelin were. They made a fortune. They're still making a fortune. And if they're worried about Grammys, then more fool them. They ought not to have been. It probably did good for their career not to win Grammys. It's not Led Zeppelin's credibility is hurt because they never won a Grammy before. It's the Grammy's credibility. And the same goes for the Stones and the Beatles and Pink Floyd and the Who. I'm not a big Pink Floyd fan, but the fact that they never won a Grammy is a little bit astounding. And the Grammys, they've gotten it wrong for years, right? I think it was 87, it was the first time they did a heavy metal category. And so, like I say, they finally, in 1980, they hit the rock category. Because the 1970s weren't really a rock decade, I guess. You're only 15 years too late on that. And then in 1987, they come in 15 years too late with a heavy metal category. But the first act to win the heavy metal category was Jethro Tull. In 1987, heavy metal was not, and by the way, that would be for the Crest of a Knave album. I had Farm on the Freeway. I love that album. One of my favorite. I have a friend who's a big Jethro Tull fan, and I argue this with him all the time. He says, that one's crap. And no, that's way better. I'll take that over Songs in the Woods or Living in the Past. Anything. I get it's not Thick in the Brick or Aqualung. I get that, but it's in the top 4 or 5 Jethro Tull albums, in my opinion. So I had no problem with it winning a Grammy. It should have run rock, though, not heavy metal. Oh boy. In 1980s, the heavy metal was pretty clearly defined too, right? It wasn't Jethro Tull. So yeah, they get this stuff wrong, and it's probably part of the fun of the Grammys is seeing how wrong they get it. Notable Grammys, by the way, for that year, the 1973 awards. Williams and Bream for Julian John. This was a classical guitar album. I'm a classical guitar player. I know this. I have this. And I think I told the story once before of them receiving a gold album for this. And John Williams actually decided to check if it would play. And he popped it on his record, popped it out of the frame and popped it on the record player. And it did play. It was a real record. It wasn't their record. It was like a polka band. They basically went into the surplus pile, spray painted it, put a label on it, and stuck it in the frame. So that's that's how that works. So that's why that one's interesting. Best comedy was George Carlin's FM AM. Best country song was Donna Fargo's "Happiest Girl in the Whole USA." And this is vitally important because that's the first ever single, first ever record I bought was Donna Fargo's "Happiest Girl in the Whole USA." So now we're into me being a record guy. So to give you an idea, when I got into music, there's a good idea, right? 1973 awards, so that was 1972 when that would have been out. It was the very first time, by the way, I was 9, so no mocking me for it. And folk, the best traditional or ethnic is the London Muddy Water Sessions, and I'm not sure what's either traditional or ethnic about those, but and the best new group was America, by the way. May 2nd, 1974, the 16th annual Grammys. Led Zeppelin had Houses of the Holy out in 1973, so this qualified. Houses of the Holy, of course, that includes Dancing Days and Jamaica, The Ocean. So possible songs, although I don't think they had any singles off it, did they? I don't think they did. So you get they didn't get Record of the Year. But anyway, record, Roberta Flack, again with the Roberta Flack, Killing Me Softly with his song. It was the song of the year as well. Album of the year was Stevie Wonder, Inner Visions. The pop male vocal performance, Stevie Wonder, You Are the Sunshine of My Life. Duo or group performance, vocal performance, Gladys Knight and the Pips. Neither one of us wants to be the first to say goodbye. In the notable category, new artist, Bette Midler. And the comedy, Cheech and Chong's Les Cochinos. Paul McCartney wins one for the arrangement for the... and this is what we're talking about, right? Paul McCartney was fabulous in the 70s. And if you look back at the 60s and say, yeah, we never gave the Beatles. We could at least throw Band on the Run a Grammy. No, he won for instrumental arrangement for Uncle Albert. He wins for instrumental arrangement for Live and Let Die. Those are the Grammys Paul McCartney got in the 70s. And I'm sure they sit in his bathroom with pride. But, really? Maybe I'm Amazed wasn't the best song of its year, or Band on the Run wasn't one of the best albums that year. And it's not like Paul McCartney wasn't by that time reasonably mainstream, you know? Okay, and then on the opera category, I stuck this one in. Leonard Bernstein, Carmen, with the Metropolitan Opera. And if I talk once in a while about opera here because of John Paul Jones, and I'm an opera fan, and this is one of my favorites. I love Carmen, and I love this version of Carmen. And if you're saying, I'd love to try opera, I don't know what to listen to. Carmen's an excellent first choice. That version of it is an excellent option. Just saying. It's out there. It's out there in a little book so you can read the words as it goes with 2 CDs. It explains the story a bit. Although I would recommend actually get a DVD and watch it instead of listen to it. It works better. But anyway, that's a favorite. So the 17th annual Grammys, March 1st, 1975. Physical Graffiti has been in the stores a week. So we're not going to see anything for Physical Graffiti here. Really, I'm just throwing this one in there. Because Led Zeppelin doesn't qualify this year. Record, I Honestly Love You, by Olivia Newton-John. Album, Stevie Wonder's Fullingness. Fullingness First Finale? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I meant by that. Barbra Streisand's The Way We Were. Vocal performance, duo or group. Here we go. Band on the Run. So they didn't miss that one. Yeah, I was just saying that a minute ago. Hard to miss. That's a hard one to miss. You can't... like I say, Paul McCartney, they missed the Beatles all these years. Even if that were against Kashmir, you have to say, well, I'll give that one. I get that one completely. Pop instrumental was The Entertainer. That would be from the movie The Sting. And notable, Tubular Bells is Best Instrumental Composition. Best Comedies, Richard Pryor's That Nigger's Crazy. 18th Annual Grammys. February 28th, 1976. Physical Graffiti's year, Kashmir's year. The year they missed Kashmir for the first time. It lost to Record of the Year, Love Will Keep Us Together by Captain Tennille. Paul Simon, Still Crazy After All These Years, was Album of the Year. Song of the Year, not Kashmir, but that standard of, well, I don't know, Send in the Clowns by Judy Collins. And yes, they did send in the Clowns, and they let them vote on Song of the Year. Album package, because Physical Graffiti had quite a nice album package, was Honey by Ohio Players. And it was, I looked it up, dirty, sexualized. I wouldn't say, but I don't know if it was better than Physical Graffiti's packaging. I got to tell you. Pop duo or group. Song by, when I say that, right? Lion Eyes by the Eagles. I think it's vocal performance pop duo group is the actual. So when I've just kind of shortened things as I was writing here. Lion Eyes by the Eagles. And it's no shame in losing to the Eagles, but Kashmir versus Lion Eyes. Now, a year later, when you're talking Hotel California, you kind of go, yeah, okay, I can see this happening. But Lion Eyes, really? That's it? That's the one you think? Not that it wasn't a small song at the time, by the way. And the best production was Janice Ian's Between the Line. That's the album with... When I Was 17, I think is the name of the song. Janice Ian had the one-hit wonder, Janice Ian, Between the Lines album, better production than Jimmy Page, Physical Graffiti. We'll just leave that one out there. Notable is a children's recording, Richard Burton's For the Little Prince. I didn't write it down at the time, but Richard Pryor, and it only matters because of next year, but Richard Pryor also won again for Best Comedy Album, and I don't know the name of the album. Okay, the 19th annual Grammys. February 19th, 1977. Both Presence and The Song Remains the Same qualify here. Record of the Year, The Masquerade. No idea what that is. I just don't know. I have no idea. Album, Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. Okay. Song, could have gone to Stairway to a live version of Stairway to Heaven. Could have. They, again, by 1977, it's obvious. Stairway to Heaven's a big song. Oh, here's our chance to get it right. They give it to I Write the Songs by Barry Manilow. The best artwork is Chicago 10 because a big X or something is, and I'm not sure what they, I'm not so sure what Chicago 10 looks like, but I think a big X is probably it, right? Pop duo or group, best vocal performance, pop duo or group, If You Leave Me Now by Chicago. Yeah, okay, whatever. And the best production is George Benson's Breezin'. I like George Benson, and yeah, they can't all go to Led Zeppelin, of course, but Presence is a pretty well-produced album. Just so notable, new artist, the Starland Vocal Band, with their big hit, their single hit, Afternoon Delight. Comedy, Richard Pryor, Bicentennial Nigger. That's 3 in a row for Pryor, and apologies, by the way, for the indiscriminate use of that word, but Richard used it, and it was, by the way, controversial at the time. It's not like, it was a bit controversial at the time, too. Trust me. Best pop instrumental, Breezin' by George Benson. Excellent choice. R&B, Lowdown by Boz Scaggs. I wouldn't have considered him R&B. I would have thought he was in the pop, which I guess means Led Zeppelin really got ripped off in the R&B category, too. If Lowdown's R&B, then so's a fair bit of Zeppelin, right? Just lost it. Because I'm rolling through this with my finger, every once in a while I hit the wrong spot, and it just jumps a page and a half. Duke Ellington won in the jazz category. I like Duke Ellington, big Ellington fan. Spoken word, Henry Fonda, Helen Hayes, James Earl Jones, and Orson Welles, The Great American Documents. I have to look that one up. What I wouldn't give to hear James Earl Jones recite the Constitution or Orson Welles reciting the Second Amendment, Oh, that'd be cool. 20th Annual Grammys, the 20th, November 23rd, 1978. There is no Led Zeppelin in 1977. The same applies in 1979. The next 2 years are non-Zeppelin years. But it's just the time frame, right? I'm just giving you the idea of the time frame. Record is Hotel California. Album is Rumors. So they're starting to recognize the rock bands, right? Song, Evergreen by Barbra Streisand, and You Light Up My Life by Debbie Boone. I guess they shared it. Pop male vocal, James Taylor, Handyman. Pop duo or group, Bee Gees, How Deep Is Your Love. Best production, Stevie Dan Asia. And notable is the new Debbie Boone. New artist is Debbie Boone. Comedy is Steve Martin's Let's Get Small. Breaks the Richard Pryor streak there. And best instrumental is Star Wars. John Williams' Star Wars. So there's give you just kind of a time frame idea, I suppose, right? February 15, 1979 for the 21st Annual Grammys. John Denver hosted. Record of the Year, Just the Way You Are. Album, Saturday Night Fever. Song, Just the Way You Are. Artist, new artist, A Taste of Honey. Again, one-hit wonders. They really, really were good at picking out the one-hit wonders for new artists, weren't they? Other than who have I mentioned that's not? America. I guess Crosby, Stills, Nash. America. I think that's about it. Everything else has been. Children's recording. This one's interesting to me. The Muppets Show. Comedy, Steve Martin's Wild and Crazy Guy. Pop. Male vocal, Copacabana. Pop duo group is the Bee Gees. And then we get to the 22nd Annual Grammys. February 27, 1980, In Through the Outdoor is up here. So, by the way, if you think about this, best vocal performance by a male, or best vocal performance, duo or group, All My Love is on the table. Best song, best vocal performance, etc. Fool in the Rain is on the table here. So, the best record of the year, What a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers. I hate the Michael McDonald years in the Doobie Brothers. Anybody else feel like, I hate his voice. But the Grammy people didn't. Album, 52nd Street by Billy Joel. Song, What a Fool Believes. Album packaging, Breakfast in America. Not a chance that's better, by the way. Not a chance that's better than In Through the Outdoor. Pop Male, 52nd Street, Billy Joel. Best vocal performance by a male. Not All My Love. Best vocal performance by a duo or group. Minute by Minute. Not All My Love. Not. That's okay. There's a new category out. There's a category called rock. So you're going to give that to Led Zeppelin, right? You're going to throw Fool in the Rain in the best rock category, or Pink Floyd anyway, because they had The Wall that year, right? Best new category. Oh, best engineered album, Breakfast in America. Yeah, right. Best new category, rock, male vocal performance, rock, Bob Dylan. Gotta serve somebody. Okay, come on. You're giving Bob Dylan a vocal award? Oh, Jesus. That's the worst. That A, it's not a rock song. B, I get Bob Dylan as a song. I get Bob Dylan, if you're going to throw out an album award. But best vocal performance? Bob Dylan? Ever? Holy cow. Holy cow. Was Joe Jackson not available that year? Best vocal group, vocal by a group, Heartache Tonight by the Eagles. Hard to argue, I guess. But yeah, that if you're looking for, And then 1983. I'm skipping 1983, the 26th annual Grammys, February 23rd, 1983. This is Coda. And Led Zeppelin is no longer a band, and it's not much of an album, I get. But again, if you're looking to throw a bone, this is your last chance, right? If you're thinking to yourself, you're the voters for the Grammys, you say, last 10 years, we really missed on this one. Here's our chance to get it right. Record and album of the year, Toto. Song, Always on My Mind. And that was, I forget who did that. Best new artist or Men at Work. Rock male vocals, Hurt So Good by John Cougar. He would have been at that time. Rock duo or group vocal performance, Survivor, Eye of the Tiger. Rock instrumental, because we did have, and this may be the biggest, other than the Bob Dylan, this may be the worst of the worst. We did have Bonzo's Mantra. So you got a chance, if you're the voters, to, throw something out there. John Bonham, they've done this. New album, their last Led Zeppelin album. We've missed them the last 10 years. John Bonham's dead. We could throw a bone that way. So best rock instrumental, Flock of Seagulls, DNA. And production, Toto 4. So that also, Toto 4, that would have been the record and album of the year as well. So there you go. That's how Led Zeppelin never won a Grammy. That's basically. By the way, best comedy that year, Back to Richard Pryor, Live on the Sunset Strip. I missed it somewhere. There was a Robin Williams comedy. I think it was 1980. There was Robin Williams got in there. Best new artist, Ricky Lee Jones. Best children's, The Muppet Movie. Best comedy, I think things have been jumped around a bit here. I think this is the 1980 Grammys. Ricky Lee Jones, The Muppet Movie, comedy, Robin Williams, reality, What a Concept. And there was also a disco category that year, as well as the rock. It was a new category, I Will Survive, Gloria Gaynor. That goes from the 1980 ones. So that's it. That's how Led Zeppelin never won a Grammy. That's who was better than Led Zeppelin year in, year out. And, on the whole, they're not awful choices. There is some awful choices. There's always going to be, though. Anybody could do this sort of thing. Anybody could vote on it. And sooner or later, because you're living in the moment and looking back historically, you're always going to be, the Oscars Kramer versus Kramer won an Oscar, for God's sakes. It's an awful movie. It's a boring movie. It's a chick flick to boot. You know, there's always going to be those kind of choices. But the fact that through the 70s, Led Zeppelin never won a single Grammy should be embarrassing for the Grammys, right? In the same way that the Beatles never winning through the 60s, in the same way the Stones never won in their heyday, in the same way the Who never won through their heyday, in the same way, I say, Pink Floyd, the same way it took till 1987 to get Jethro Tull, and all those bands through all those years. I mean, you listen to that, and those are all nice songs. Look at the albums and the songs we picked, and there's so many of them are just nice songs. They're okay songs. But are they the ones that mean anything to anybody now? On the whole, the answer is no. And I guess that's... And what's surprising to me is not that they missed Led Zeppelin in the early days. It's that later on, when they had the chance to kind of go, we really missed the boat on this Led Zeppelin thing, they still didn't throw them. You know, for In Through the Outdoor would have been a really obvious choice. And if you're looking at vocal performances that year, it would have been an obvious choice. But they chose not to, so there you go. And it's just one of those things. All right, so that's it. That's Ramble On Radio, episode number 45. Check out rambleonradio.com for notes on this week's podcast, Led Zeppelin news and reviews, any links mentioned in today's podcast, which I don't believe I have. Follow Ramble On Radio on Facebook, Google+, and at Ramble On Blog on Twitter. You can subscribe to Ramble On Radio through iTunes, and if you do, please leave a review. It helps. It bumps a rating. It gives me a rating. And if I get enough of a rating, you get kind of into their lists, and it basically helps more people to see the podcast. More people see the podcast, more people listen to the podcast. Listen on Spreaker, and be sure to follow me. And this is a big deal. Be sure to follow me. I have actually sent in this podcast to iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is part of Clear Channels. And I don't expect them to say yes. I don't expect that to happen. But they're part of Clear Channel. And one of the things they look at is your Spreaker stats. And if none of you guys listening have gone under Spreaker and signed up and just subscribe to me. If you look for Ramble On Radio, you'll find me. I think I'm there as I Am Brian, damn it. I think. But anyway, if you look for Ramble On Radio, you will find me. And if I get 100 likes there, it increases the chance that the guys at iHeartRadio will like. So if you would like to be able to listen to me on your phone app, your iHeartRadio phone app, for instance, but it also puts this thing in front of thousands of people. You put this in front of thousands of people, it changes the game a bit. It changes, when I do contact, if I contact Jimmy, I'm going to, in the next little while, I'm going to be contacting Jimmy Page's people and I forget his name, which is John Davis, and saying, hey, how about coming on, or how about I'd like an interview to talk about these remasters. And, if I can go in and say, look, it's on iHeartRadio, I have 10,000 listeners on iHeartRadio, they're paying attention to that. If I go and say, 500 or 600 people listen, they're kind of, okay, well, that's whatever it is. Maybe we have time, maybe we don't. And they don't generally have time. But if you can throw some numbers out there, right? It's on iHeartRadio, it's got to be 1,000 people. They can't ignore that. So anyway, you can help by going to Spreaker. And if you're on Spreaker especially, just subscribe. You don't have to listen to anything on your subscription list. But it helps. And also, check it out at I Am Brian Dammit on iTunes. And of course, you can download it directly from Podbean. Thanks for listening. Good night, good day. Stay warm out there, people, please. And I will talk to you next week.